I still remember the sound of her pen clicking more than her voice. It had a rhythm, 1, 2 pause, 1, 2, like she was thinking in time. The first week of my summer course, that sound followed me around long after class ended. She was my evening literature teacher. Mid-40s probably, though no one ever asked. Her name was Ms. Raines. The kind of woman who didn't need to talk much. You could just feel her composure settle over a room. The class met in one of those older university buildings with windows that didn't quite shut. When it rained, the smell of wet leaves drifted in. I always sat by the radiator, not because it was comfortable, but because it was near her desk. Close enough to see the way she tilting her head when she read something aloud, like she was trying to hear the heartbeat of the words. Most nights, we stayed a few minutes after class, just the two of us. Everyone else left quickly. Night classes attract people with buses to catch, kids to feed. I stayed because I said I liked to review notes. Truth was, I didn't have much to go home to. She'd erase the board while I packed up. Sometimes I'd say something just to keep her talking. Do you ever get tired of teaching the same stories every year? She smiled, faintly. You'd be surprised how much they change, or maybe how much I do. That kind of answer lingered. I worked at a small cafe nearby, so a few weeks in, I started bringing her coffee before class. I remembered how she took it. Half sugar, no cream. She never asked me to. Just looked at the cup once and said, "You remembered," like it was both gratitude and warning. We never flirted, not exactly. But there was something in the pauses. When I'd hand her the coffee, our fingers would almost touch, and she'd look away a second too late. There's this thing about her. The way she looks at you when you're talking, like she's trying not to. Like she's afraid you might mistake her attention for something else. I did. That night, after class, it was raining hard. She offered to drive me to the bus stop, but the streetlights flickered and the whole city felt half asleep, so she just said, "Wait here until it slows down." We stood by the window. The rain sounded too close. You ever wish you could just stop being responsible for a minute? I asked, mostly to the glass. She let out this soft laugh, more breath than sound. Every minute. Then silence. The kind that feels like someone's deciding something. Her hand brushed against mine when she reached for her bag. She froze. I didn't move. For a second I thought she might actually say what she was thinking, but she just took a slow breath and said, almost to herself, "I can't control myself around you." I didn't plan my answer. It came out low, quiet, like it belonged to someone braver. "Then don't." The rain hit harder. She looked at me then, really looked. I could see every reason she wanted to walk away flickering behind her eyes. But she didn't move. Neither did I. Her phone buzzed on the desk. She flinched, stepped back, and said, "You should go." I left without my notebook. When I got home, there was a message waiting. Just 3 words from an unknown number: "You forgot something." I stared at it for a long time. The rain was still going, steady against the window. And I couldn't tell if she meant the notebook. Or that moment we both pretended didn't happen. The next class, I got there early. The rain had passed, but the air still smelled like metal and damp concrete. My notebook was sitting on her desk when I walked in. A small, neat square of yellow sticky note on top. "You left this. Mr. I don't know why, but the sight of my own handwriting under hers felt more personal than a text. When she walked in, she nodded once, almost businesslike. I said thanks and she just said, "You're welcome," in a voice that carried something quieter underneath. Something we weren't naming. We spent most of class pretending nothing had changed. She talked about Baldwin's Another Country, about desire that crosses lines people draw for themselves. Her tone was measured, but her fingers kept tracing the edge of the book, like she was grounding herself. After class, the others filed out quickly again. I waited, unsure if I wanted to talk or just stand there in the same air. She finally said, "You're early lately, and you stay late. You should be out somewhere." "Nowhere to be," I said. She gave a small smile. "That's a dangerous thing for someone your age." We ended up walking together to her car, not on purpose. It just happened. She carried a stack of essays. I offered to help. "You don't have to," she said, but didn't stop me. In the car, the light from the dashboard painted her face in soft amber. I noticed the small scar near her chin, probably from years ago. It made her look less composed, more real. She said after a while, "When I was your age, I thought I'd have everything figured out by now." I turned to her. "You don't." She laughed softly. "Not even close." She looked out the windshield, hands on the steering wheel though the engine wasn't running. "My daughter's about your age," she said then, voice quieter. "She's studying abroad this year." I didn't know what to do with that. Something about it made the air feel heavier. Like I just stepped into a space I didn't belong. "You miss her?" I asked. "Every day," she said. Then, almost like she hadn't meant to add it, "She used to sit like you do, elbows on the desk, staring too long at things." That stuck with me, not because she compared me to her daughter, but because it sounded like she missed being seen by someone, even accidentally. We didn't say much after that. She offered me tea from a thermos she kept in the glove compartment. Chamomile. I drank it slowly, even though it was lukewarm. When she handed me the cup, her fingers brushed mine again. This time, she didn't pull away right away. Just a second too long. Then she whispered, "You should really go before I say something I shouldn't." I opened the door, stepped into the night air that smelled faintly of jasmine. I looked back once. She was still sitting there, both hands around her thermos, staring straight ahead like she was waiting for the courage to drive. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. The week after that, she changed the seating chart. Said it was to mix perspectives. I ended up 3 rows away. No one else seemed to notice, but I did. The space between us, the way she didn't look my way when she spoke. When class ended, I stayed in my seat longer than usual, waiting to see if she'd look up. She didn't. By Thursday, I told myself I'd stop bringing coffee. It wasn't a big deal. Just a habit. But habits have weight when you take them away. My hands felt empty walking into the classroom. She glanced up once, saw I wasn't holding anything, and nodded to herself, small, like she understood. Or approved. I couldn't tell which hurt more. Halfway through class, one of the older students, a guy named Ethan, stayed after to ask her about a paper. I waited outside, pretending to scroll my phone, but I wasn't reading anything. Their voices carried through the half-open door. She was laughing, not loud, just that warm, private kind of laugh. Something twisted in my chest, stupid really. She was his teacher too. Still, when she came out she stopped short when she saw me. "You're still here." I shrugged. "Forgot my pen." She nodded, slow. "You do that a lot. Forget things." There was a faint smile, but her eyes looked tired. That weekend, the cafe was busier than usual. I was clearing a table when I saw her outside. Standing by the window, not coming in. Just watching for a moment, like she wasn't sure if she should. I wiped the counter twice even though it was already clean. When I finally went out, she was holding a small paperback. "I thought you might like this," she said. It was Baldwin again, a different book. For perspective. "You didn't have to." "I know." She tucked her hair behind her ear, the kind of small movement that somehow made everything feel more fragile. "I just saw it, and thought of you." There were people walking past, noise from the traffic. Still, it felt like the world had narrowed down to just that space between us. I wanted to ask if she was avoiding me, if she was trying not to care. But she already looked like she'd built a wall to protect us both. I reached for the book. Our fingers brushed. Again, always almost. She didn't pull back right away this time. Her hand stayed, just long enough for me to feel her pulse, steady, then not. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered. "You are," I said. The quiet stretched taut. For a moment, I thought she'd lean in. Thought I would too. But she stepped back first. "Read the book," she said, soft but firm. "And try not to look for me in it." She turned before I could answer. The sound of her footsteps faded down the sidewalk. I stood there, the book warm in my hand, heart hammering against the cover like it was trying to get out. And I realized, maybe that's what she'd been doing all along, trying not to look for herself in me. She canceled class on Tuesday, no explanation, just an email sent at 6:03 am. I stared at it longer than I should have. One sentence. "Class will not meet today, no apology. No, see you next week. Just absence." The following Thursday she was back. Different though, distant, new haircut, new earrings. like she'd changed something small to make the distance feel official. After class I asked if she was okay. She said she'd been catching up on things. Then, after a pause, "You don't need to worry about me." But I did. A week later, I saw her by the park near campus. She was sitting on a bench, coat half buttoned, reading something. I almost walked past, but she looked up right as I did, like she'd been waiting for me to appear. "You walk here often?" I asked. "Sometimes," she said, "when I need to remember I'm not just someone's teacher." That sat between us for a moment. She gestured to the empty space beside her. I sat. There was wind, soft but constant. The kind that makes you aware of silence. She didn't look at me when she spoke again. I used to think I had control over who I became close to. Turns out, I just learned how to pretend better than most. I didn't answer right away. I didn't trust what might come out. She went on. "You remind me of when I was still capable of wanting something. Not because it was good for me, but because it wasn't." The words hit harder than she probably meant them to. I said quietly, "You talk like you regret that." She smiled faintly. "I do, and I don't." She looked down at her hands, neat, still, fingers pressed together like she was holding herself in place. "Ethan asked me to get coffee next week," she said suddenly. I told him yes. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. "That's great." Her eyes flicked up, searching mine. "It isn't." That silenced me. I wanted to ask why she said yes then, but her face already carried the answer, guilt mixed with the need to push me away before it got worse. "I'm not sure what this is," I said finally. "Between us." She closed her eyes for a second. "Neither am I." The wind shifted, a leaf caught in her hair. I reached up before thinking, brushed it away. My hand stayed there, near her cheek, not touching. She didn't move. Didn't breathe, it seemed. Her eyes opened slowly. Something raw flickered there. Fear maybe. Or surrender. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered. I wanted to ask, doing what? But I already knew. We sat there, neither moving. The world kept going. Kids shouting across the park, a dog barking somewhere. And under it all the sound of our restraint. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely above the wind. "Tell me this means nothing," she said. I couldn't, and I think she knew that before she even asked. The next week, she stopped making eye contact. Not just with me, with everyone. Her lectures became shorter, flatter, like she was just reading from a script someone else had written. No pauses, no smiles. The rhythm was gone. By Thursday I realized she'd changed the schedule again. Our final presentations were now self-guided, submitted online. Meaning no more classes, no more her. When she dismissed us, I stayed behind, pretending to fix my bag strap. She was already packing up her papers, moving with a kind of deliberate efficiency. "The kind you use when you're trying not to feel," I said. "That's it." She didn't look up. "It's time," she said. "You have what you need." "I don't think I do." That made her stop. Her hand froze midair, holding a pen. She took a breath. Then another. Finally, she said, "You're young. You'll forget me." It was meant to be kind. It wasn't. For days after I kept checking my phone, not for a text, just for anything. Every morning, I'd make coffee and imagine her doing the same, that slow pour she did, the way she tapped the spoon twice against the mug. By Sunday, I decided to walk past the university. I told myself I was just passing through. But the truth was, I wanted to see her car. I wanted proof she still existed somewhere near me. It wasn't there. What I did see was a small flyer on the bulletin board by the entrance. Visiting lecturer M. Rain's Creative Writing Seminar, Tokyo, July term. Tokyo. She was leaving. I stared at it until the letters blurred. That night, I drafted a message. "You don't have to go." Deleted it. Tried again. "I hope you find what you're looking for." Deleted that too. Every version sounded wrong, too heavy or too light. So I wrote the only thing that felt true. "I miss you." But I didn't send it. 2 days later, I went to the cafe for my shift. The place was half empty. When I turned to wipe down a table, I saw something on the counter, a folded piece of paper, no name. Inside a single sentence. "Thank you for seeing me." No number, no signature. But the handwriting, her slanted, careful script, was unmistakable. I read it 3 times, then tucked it into my wallet. That night I walked home slower than usual, passing every place we'd lingered without meaning to. The classroom window, the park bench, the bus stop. All of them still there, unchanged. Like they were waiting for something I couldn't give back. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. It was almost 2 months before I saw her again. Summer had already started to fade, heat softening into something bearable. I'd stopped checking my phone every morning, but the habit left a kind of hollow space behind. Then, one afternoon, I found her letter in the cafe's mail pile. It wasn't addressed to me, not really, just my name, no return address. The handwriting was familiar, steady but tired. Inside was a short note and a photo. The note said, "Tokyo isn't what I thought. I'm teaching again. Different faces, same silence. I thought distance would make it easier to forget the small things. But it turns out, they're the only things that stay." The photo showed a narrow street lined with paper lanterns. In the corner, her reflection in a window, blurred, accidental. No signature, just a date last week. That evening, I went to the park, the same bench, same wind, same slow quiet that felt like memory repeating itself. I sat there for a long time, turning the letter over in my hands. And I realized I didn't need her to be there for it feel like she was. The next day, she came back. I didn't expect it. She just appeared at the cafe door, travel bag by her feet, hair pinned loosely like she hadn't slept much. "You're back," I said, more question than statement. "For a week," she replied. "They asked me to finish the summer course." I tried to sound casual. Failed. "How was Tokyo?" "Loud," she said. Then, softer, lonely in the way that doesn't make sense. We stood there for a moment, between the noise of the espresso machine and the quiet we carried. Finally, she said, "Can we talk?" "Somewhere not here." We ended up back at her place, the small front porch that smelled faintly of rain and rosemary. She made tea. I didn't drink mine. I kept thinking I'd made it up. I said finally, "Everything. The way you looked at me, the things we didn't say. You didn't make it up," she said. Her voice trembled just slightly. Enough to break something open. I told myself it was wrong to feel this. "You're young, and I'm..." She stopped, searching for the word. "Careful. I've lived long enough to know how easily care can turn into cruelty." I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't composed anymore, not hiding behind control or age or duty, just tired, just human. "I never wanted anything from you," I said, "just not to be forgotten." Her eyes met mine then. For the first time, she didn't look away. "You won't be," she said quietly. We didn't touch, we didn't need to. The wind moved through the rosemary bush, carrying the faintest scent between us, sharp, clean, familiar. She smiled, the smallest hun I'd ever seen from her but real. "Okay," she said. "Okay." And that was it. No promises, no endings, just the soft sound of two people finally exhaling. A year later I still make her coffee the same way, half sugar, no cream. Some habits never unlearn themselves. She moved back for good last fall. Not because of me, though I'd like to think I had something to do with it. The university offered her a permanent position. She said she missed the silence here. The kind that isn't empty, just waiting. We don't talk about we don't need to. The story already happened. What's left is the quiet part, the life that grows in the cracks. Most mornings she walks the cafe at 8:47 a.m., on her way to class. Always the same time. She doesn't wave but she'll look in through the window, small nod, faint smile. It's enough. Sometimes, after work, I stop by her place, the same one with the rosemary by the porch. We sit outside, 2 mugs of tea between us, chamomo for her, black coffee for me. We talk about nothing and everything. The books she's teaching, the new students who remind her of younger you, she says, with a knowing look that still catches me off guard. The world feels smaller now, but not in a bad way. Just contained, manageable. One night in late spring we went back to the park. Same bench, same stretch of wind that never seems to stop. She brought the old thermos this time, the one she used to keep in her car. The lid's a little dented, and she says it leaks sometimes, but she still carries it. We sat there without talking for a while. Streetlights hummed and the scent of cut grass hung heavy. Then she said, quietly, "Do you ever think about that first night? The rain." "Sometimes," I said. "What do you think about?" I smiled. "That you almost let me kiss you." She laughed then, low, Warm, almost embarrassed, almost. There was a long pause, then, softer, "You know I think about it too. But not with regret." The wind lifted a strand of her hair across her face. I reached out, brushed it aside. A gesture we'd done 100 times, never tired of. We didn't need to say anything after that. The quiet between us wasn't fragile anymore. It was familiared. Later, when she stood to go, she left her thermos on the bench. I called after her, "You forgot something." She turned, that same half smile, the one from the very first message she ever sent. "Keep it," she said. "You'll remember to fill it." I still do. Every morning. Sometimes with tea, sometimes with coffee, depends who wakes up first. I used to think love was supposed to feel like a beginning, loud, certain, full of promise. But now I know it can sound like the slow pour of hot water into an old thermos, the quiet between two breaths, the steady rhythm of someone staying.